into it. The bad news. Listen, I don't think this caught anybody off guard, to be honest with you. We were kind of expecting it. It looked like it was either an Achilles or maybe some other kind of ligament damage. Could have been to the knee. He responded as if it was an Achilles. Usually those guys go down like they've been shot, right? It's just like that thing snaps, and all of a sudden they say it's not that painful when it breaks or when it snaps, when the Achilles tendon basically tears, but it's just really weird because it reverberates up your leg, and all of a sudden your foot just kind of drops, right? Like there's nothing to hold it together there. But essentially that's what we've got here. Adam Schefter tweeted out, test today confirmed that Packers tight end John Fitzpatrick tore his Achilles during Saturday's 22-16 overtime loss to the Bears. Per source, Packers now have lost two tight ends, Tucker Kraft and Fitzpatrick, to season-ending injuries. Now, again, it's not like Fitzpatrick is a key player, a huge, factor in the Packers offense and what they want to do. It is a role player, though. And the thing that I've noticed about tight ends within Matt LaFleur's offense that are not named Tucker Kraft, or there you can kind of plug and play just about anybody in there, right? We talked about it with Tucker. Tucker's a great player. I think he's a top 5 tight end, and we'll see if he recovers completely next year from the ACL and returns to that form. But you're kind of scheming those guys open, right? We've seen it with Musgrave running butt naked through the trailer park a couple times, right, on the cross corner route, things like that. Matt does a good job of scheming tight ends open, but it's the guys underneath, those role players that are sift blocking, your move tight ends, all those guys, right? Like Josh Wiley has been what we call our move tight end. He's that guy that you'll notice. I refer to him as the U. I say that Matt LaFleur's offense has two different tight ends, a Y, a traditional tight end, and then you've got the U that'll play off the line of scrimmage, move around a lot, that type of thing. He's kind of the F of the tight end position. Obviously the F being the move player, the move slot, in some cases the moving Z, which is most of the time Jaden Reed, unless he's not on the field, then it becomes Matthew Golden this year, right? But that's the kind of tight end that Josh Wiley has been. Fitzpatrick has kind of been a little bit different. In my opinion, he's the third stringer on this team, right? You had Tucker Kraft number 1, Luke Musgrave number 2. They like to use Musgrave as the U before Tucker Kraft got hurt. And then once Tucker Kraft got hurt, they tried to attach Musgrave as the Y, and then they would bring in Fitzpatrick and Josh Wiley and these guys, right? It seemed like Josh Wiley came in and leapfrogged Fitzpatrick as that U. And then you started putting Musgrave on the line of scrimmage as the Y. And now we've learned they're starting to flex Musgrave out a little bit more, which is to the strength of his talents, right? His natural ability. So the moral of the story here is, yes, it sucks losing Fitzpatrick, but I don't think it's like devastating news. Not like if you were to lose Josh Jacobs or, like when we lost Jordan Love to the concussion, right? And insert 1,000 other players, Zach Tom, Evan Williams, but it is a loss. So nonetheless, so there you go. It's a torn Achilles for John Fitzpatrick. Let's talk about what he's done this year. And we've already hit on it a little bit here with his role in the offense. Again, you got a big tight end, 6'7", 250 pounds. He was a 6th round pick by the Atlanta Falcons, and he played football with the Georgia Bulldogs in college. So when you look at his grades on the year, and again, this is PFF, it's not everything, but what you've got is someone who ranges from the 50s to the 70s. You don't have a grade in the 80s in terms of overall offensive PFF grade. His best game was 16 snaps against the Cleveland Browns in week 3 to 76.9. In between that, 49, 51, 46, 56, 55, 48, right? Then he started to get better. You can see here in week 11, 54, 64, 60, 73. Against Chicago, that first matchup, a 73.8 PFF grade on 30 snaps. It's a lot of snaps for a tight end, right? Then you've got a 52 against Denver. And then this week, he only played 26 snaps against Chicago. Of course, he got hurt and had a 67.4. When you look at the snap count, though, look over the last 3 games, guys, 30, 46, 26. It's a pretty big role player. That's a significant amount of snaps. It really is. And look at the run blocking grade here against Chicago before he got hurt, an 81, right? So, again, last week you were without Josh Wiley, and this is what got us in trouble. You had Luke Musgrave on the field, okay? Josh Wiley would have been your second tight end, essentially, right, for the most part. And the moving tight end, the blocking tight end, if you will. Well, he goes down with a concussion, so he can't play against Chicago. So he's out that game, right? He's in concussion protocol. He should be back this week, we're hoping. Hopefully everything clears out, checks out, nothing long-term there. So he's out of the game. Then Fitzpatrick goes down with the Achilles, right? And all of a sudden, you're down to one tight end with our boy Luke Musgrave. So again, you went in shorthanded and you came out the other side even more so shorthanded. So when you look at his PFF grades on his career, starting in 2023, Fitzpatrick was a 63, then a 55, and then a 56 this year. So again, you're not talking about a player that's like, holy cow, this dude is dominant, right? Or you're not. I wouldn't even say he's a good player. If I had to stamp him with the title, you'd say you got all these different levels. I know PFF uses this terminology, but you think of like, below average, average, above average, good, very good, great, and elite, right? With Fitzpatrick, I would say he's average, I don't think he's going to lose you a game. I don't think he's going to go out of his way to win a game, right? That's just my personal opinion there. So that's kind of how his career has gone up to this point. Now, when you compare that across the board with the rest of the offensive players on the Packers squad here, right? These are the offensive grades according to PFF. Jordan Love leading the way, 88.5. Josh Jacobs, 87. Zach Tom, 83. Christian Watson, 83. Tucker Kraft, 78. Darian Kennard, 73. Jaden Reed, 73. Malik Willis, 72. Chris Brooks, 71. Dontavion Wicks, 70. Those are the players that are above a 70. If you stay in the green here and going down, Romeo Dobbs, 69. Matthew Golden, 68. Rasheed Walker, 66. So you got to go all the way down, guys. He's John Fitzpatrick, according to PFF, a 56.3 on the year. Again, 335 snaps. Luke Musgrave has 405 snaps as it sits right now. Josh Whyle has 109. So he's got fewer than I kind of expected when I looked on this list, to be honest with you. But again, when you look at the tight end position, here's how they grade out. John Fitzpatrick is the lowest graded tight end on the team at a 56. Then Luke Musgrave, 57. Then Josh Whyle, 58. And, of course, Tucker Kraft is toward the top of the list up there. There's Ben Sims. Ben Sims only, one snap it's looking like on the season. And obviously, I don't think he's even on the roster anymore, right, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he's with the Minnesota Vikings now. So there is kind of how your tight end room shakes out. And what I wanted to point out there, guys, is you'll notice with all those tight ends, right, when you look at those tight ends, they're all grading out about the same. Right. Well, why is that? Again, it's something schematic. Like when you look at how Matt LaFleur utilizes the tight end position, it's almost like you can plug and play just about anyone into those spots. So like I said, it sucks losing depth. It sucks losing someone who's gotten comfortable within the offense. All that does, it does hurt you in that sense, but that's the way it goes. Now, when you go into, look at this guy right here. Got Emilio joining us. Pleasant surprise, man. Appreciate you. Yeah. So here's what you got at the tight end position in terms of production. Tucker Kraft still leading the way at 489 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. He was on
a tear.
Bro, unbelievable. Luke Musgrave, 252 yards receiving, so he's starting to amp it up a little bit. 10.5 yards per reception is pretty cool. John Fitzpatrick was third with 72 yards, a touchdown, only averages 6 yards a catch, right? His catch percentage, however, 80%. He did have good hands. There's no doubt about takedowns. And then Josh Whyle, of course, 24 yards, a touchdown, and 8 yards per reception there. And again, Wiley's more of that moving tight end, that blocking tight end type guy that will put you. So that's how the current tight end room shakes out, along with the injury. We're going to shift gears and talk about the practice squad tight ends in a second. Emilio, since you jumped in here, man, that's a pleasant surprise. How do you feel about the loss of John Fitzpatrick? Anything you want to add to that before we move on, man?
Brutal. I mean, just a guy that's really put his head down and worked, to get a spot, to get a rep. When Tucker went out, he was still kind of getting a little bit in between there. But when Tucker went out, all right, I got to be a part of this offense. That's where you work on everybody who's depth pieces, how much playing time can they get, things like that. But yeah, just brutal that you lose him. Couple of good guys we've lost this year, absolutely, for the year. But I do love that number there. Musgrave was catch rate over 3%, over expected, and over 10 yards a catch. That's how we need to use him. He's got to get vertical. He's got to get outside. Those out routes are money. Those corner routes, I think he just runs those really well. Yeah,
completely agree, man. And again, it's just utilizing the opportunities you got with these guys, right? That's the main thing, is just capitalizing on them. So here are a couple of tight ends that our lads' depth chart is actually showing on our practice squad, right? First one, I was surprised to see a Tennessee volunteer here. McCallan Castles. I hope I'm saying that right. McCallan Castles. Yeah, he's a tight end prospect in the 2024 draft class. So, again, we don't have a whole lot on Castles, but what I did was put up RAS football. Math Bomb over on X, who kind of configures all the RASs during draft time. Here was his RAS card coming out of college. All right, you got 6'4", 244 pounds. Okay, so his composite size grade, along with the bench press of 16 reps, is okay. Right, not bad, not good, just okay. The explosion grade, however, vertical jump of 37.5, scoring a 9.54. The broad jump of 10.06, scoring a 9.71. He has an elite explosion grade. I had no idea what an explosion grade was. I heard it way back in the day in around 2011. Pat Kerwin, who wrote Take Your Eye Off the Ball, he talked about how GMs used, they would grade explosiveness, and that's what they would use as the broad jump, the vertical jump, and that would kind of show how explosive a player was. And I think that legs in the game of football, they really are. Sometimes we get caught up in the speed, but you don't really think, well, how can you determine the explosion, the strength in the legs? I think that does a good job with the vertical and the broad jump.
But, and what's that frame on, right? What's the explosion on? I mean, because Jaden Daniels, yeah, he's got good numbers. What's the frame on, though, right? And how beat up are you getting?
Absolutely. So let's talk about the composite speed grade. It grades out great. He had a 4.6640. To put that into perspective, you've got our boy Luke Musgrave ran a 4.61, I believe. He was on the border of breaking into the 4.5s there. So 4.66 is solid, man. That's a quick speed there. 8.73 is the score. 20-yard split. So in the first 20 yards of that 40-yard dash, a 2.75, which scored a 6.96. But the 10-yard split, a 1.6 scoring a 9.12, which goes hand in hand with the explosion of the vertical jump and the broad jump right out of the gate.
Or distance.
Yep. And then you've got the shuttle grade, the composite agility grade, however, good. Shuttle 4.31 with a 7.89 score, 3-cone, a 7.2595. So what you've got here, Emilio, is someone, to me, it kind of screams a U. It screams a U, like a guy that can kind of explode right out of the gate and get a good lock on a block. However, the bench press is worrying with the 3.22. So you look at the bench and go, okay, he's a little bit undersized too at 244, as silly as that sounds. Is this more of a receiving tight end or is this more of a blocking tight end? The explosion grade would say, yeah, more of a blocking tight end. But then you see the bench and go, I don't know, point of attack, he'll probably get manhandled a little bit. So I think he's just one of those that I don't even know if he'll see the field. He's on the roster. I want to give you guys an idea of what we got there. So anything you want to add to?
My thought was a little bit more vertical threat at first, but I was trying to remember him when he was playing there. It's just you're right. You have the speed vertically, you got the long distance speed over 40, you got the short speed at 10, and the explosiveness. Even if he's not, I feel like you almost have to get ready to be a U or the flyer, right? You got to be that F motion. You got to be that motion guy at this point. It's next man up mentality here. And if this is your shot to get into the NFL, anything you need me to do, Matt. You know what I mean? I don't care if you need me to block 100 plays this game. Right. Just give me a shot.
Absolutely. And then the other player that's on the practice squad is our boy Drake Dabney. I hope I'm saying that name right. He's out of TCU. Now, his RAS isn't near as appealing, right? Obviously, he's a tight end prospect in the 2025 draft. Big boy, don't get me wrong, 6'5", 253, okay? Bench press 13 reps, so even less than Castles there, and that scored a 141. So his composite size grade is good. All right, the composite explosion grade is good as well. 7.49 for the vertical of 34 inches, and then a broad jump of 9.05, scoring a 4.73. So obviously not as good as Castles. And then the 40-yard dash of 4.77. I'm going to be real. I don't know this guy, but watched any tape. He may be a great football player. He might be very, very underrated. But just looking at the RAS score here, to me, you got to go with Castles over here.
Me no like you that, right, Clay? A little too much red on there. Too much red on there. I did pull up a thing off UT on Castles. They were saying he actually transferred from UC Davis in the FCS ranks. So another FCS tight end, maybe, that we take a peek at, somebody a little lower level that you got to work your way up. The dude's been, at the bottom, and he's gotten to play at UT, and that, biggest state, top 5 biggest stadium. So he's not afraid of that. And he understands that aspect of it. I think you're right. We got to go with Castles if we're bringing up a tight end.
Yeah, and they'll probably go get somebody off the waiver wire like they did Josh Wiley. And Josh Wiley being healthy too. Last week we went into that game with just 2 tight ends, right? Yeah. So there's a chance they could roll that way, although there's also a chance that maybe they learn their lesson too. So we'll see how that shakes out. But if you guys are watching that video back later, let us know in the comments, what do you think about the John Fitzpatrick injury? How do you think we should approach this tight end position and replacing him here in the future? Do you just roll with what you got? Do you promote someone from the practice squad? Is there another name? You guys may have a tight end or two that you go, hey, I like Mercedes Lewis, hint, hint, right? I don't even know where Mercedes is right now, but that would be one I would be okay with because you've got that veteran leadership. He knows Matt LaFleur's offense. It's just you can't expect him to do – we couldn't expect him to do much when he was here a few years ago, right?
Right. So, no, Mercedes would be like if you're trying to sub out Kennard, right, Clay? Say you want to get Kennard in at right tackle or, more whatever it needs to be, you use Mercedes as that extra tight end.
Absolutely. So let us know in the comments what you guys think. Also, make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. All right. I want to hit one